the fact that we're all of a sudden crying morals, where's your moral compass, where do you draw your line, it is ridiculous, right? We've had oligarchs who have had clear ties to very evil people own football clubs. We've had states who have killed journalists, allegedly at least, that run football clubs. We've had, like I said, oligarchs run football clubs. The moral compass of football now doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for a long time, and definitely now it doesn't exist. The horse is bolted. There is no more morals in football. Football and morals are not a thing anymore. Sorry. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Two Footed Tackle podcast. I'm your host, Ari Stamatakos. Again, should probably stop saying it. I don't think this mug's going to be changing anytime soon. But yes, hope everyone's well. We're back again, episode 24, I think, of season 2. Episode 70 something total. I think something high 70s, maybe 80 episodes total, which is pretty insane to think about considering. Just done this for 50 something, just over a year, so maybe like 56 weeks, 58 weeks. So it's over a podcast a week, which, considering the World Cup, actually makes sense. But yeah, it's been a pretty long journey, but we're back again as we are Tuesday, 6 p.m. Australian Eastern Daylight Time, every single week without fail. Yeah, good to be back. Good to be speaking to you again about the weekend's actions. Not a lot to speak about, actually. Probably a slightly short episode today. I want to speak on a couple of things. I want to get back into some tactical analysis, some things that we haven't done in a while. So that's going to be enjoyable. We're going to be doing that on a certain team, which I'll mention in probably just a bit. Or if you're on YouTube, you can just scroll on the timestamps that I've already got, that I've probably got written down already. But yeah, we're going to be doing on that. We're touching on that. A lot of A-League and Australian football chat to speak about as well. Some big news, not big news, but some news was released midweek about the about expansion to the A-League, not the second division, the actual A-League. So we'll be speaking on that as well. And then, yeah, we're going to be speaking on a couple of things, but not the most interesting weekend of football, if I was to say so myself. Yeah, it was a little bit of a boring weekend. Of course, the games, or the big midday or 2 p.m. or 2 a.m. kickoffs Australian time, were boring as all fuck. Probably, unneeded swear there, but a bunch of 1-0s and a bunch of 1-0s, and Chelsea lost, and I was this close to crying. I wasn't, but I wanted to, but I started laughing, because if you don't laugh, you'll cry. So seeing my team lose to bottom of the table Southampton, I'm pretty sure, yeah, bottom of the table Southampton at home, with about £600 million worth of player on the field is look. I was going to say I've seen worse losses. I don't think I have. And I was really tempted to speak about Chelsea in depth, but I don't have. I don't know how to describe. Like in Greek, I don't have the orexy for it. Like I don't have the time, don't have the effort, don't have the energy. I just cannot be bothered. I can't be bothered speaking about Chelsea. So that's why I'm just going to wear the kit. For those listening, I'm wearing the FA Cup commemorative 100-year anniversary top. So the modern version of 100-year anniversary, or I think it was when we won it, maybe in 1970. I'm wearing the modern version of the commemorative kit, which has the blacked out or the blued out Yokohama Tires logo. There you go, if you can see it. My cousin got this for me, actually, when he went to London. Anyway, just a side note. But yeah, let's crack on, because it's very unlike me to ramble just complete and utter nonsense for about 5 minutes before at the start of every episode. I just feel like it's a good way to warm people up into it. If you're listening to this on the car. I mean, if you're listening to this on the car, then send in a photo, because I want proof. Because I mean, if you're listening to this on the car, then that's commitment. That is commitment. So if you send in a photo if you're listening to this on the car. In the car is what I should have said. Or I don't know, making dinner, or I don't know. I listen to podcasts when I go to sleep, so I don't know if anyone's listening to this as a lullaby, but if they are, then there you go. But let's stop rambling. Let's actually start speaking about football, shall we? So the two things I want to speak on mainly is United potentially being bought out by Qatar, but that's just an excuse to speak about other football and other not football, but the way football clubs are being owned. I want to get into that conversation because it's always a good conversation. Never boring. I want to do some tactical analysis on Everton. So that was a club I want to do some tactical analysis on. I haven't done a proper deep dive into tactics, and I feel like with 3 games for Sean Dyche, I feel like it's a pretty good way to do it. I feel like it's a pretty good way. It's a pretty good time to do it. 2 wins, 1 loss. We're going to be touching on that. And I'm going to move on to A-League chat. So only 2 talking points this week, and then we're going to move on to A-League chat, which will probably be a little bit more bumper than usual, but there you go, and then we'll move on to the preview of the week. Champions League is back this week. Yeah, it is. The first leg of the other round of fixtures to play, so that'll be good to preview those. I can't remember what I said last week. I don't know how many I got right, but there you go. Okay, let's crack up. Let's start because it's 6 minutes and I've already fucking rambled enough. Let's go on United. Let's speak on United. So I want to say the major news this week, or it was definitely news, and that was of course Manchester United have had expressions of interest, if you were to call it that, or have definitely had a word that they are going to be sold. This of course comes off the back of the Glazer family looking to sell the football club. So don't be surprised if the Norwich scarves come out anytime soon. How's the backhander there? But yeah, United are going to probably be sold at some stage in the near future, you would assume, based on how much talk there is about it. And the biggest contender, in a sense, or a contender that has been circulating a couple of football clubs, is the Qatari Qatar Sports Investment, looking at buying United, some other clubs as well in the running. Now, this of course is, I don't know if it's the exact same as it's the exact same kind of thing as the people who own PSG and Newcastle, but essentially Manchester United are going to become state-owned. Now, I know if you want to get technical about it, they're not going to become state-owned because it's not a royal family buying a football club; it's a sports investment company. But let's use our brains and let's do a bit of critical thinking. United are going to be state-owned. Come on. So what does that mean? What does that mean for United? Now, there's a couple of different avenues you can look at this. I think let's go into what the actual, not semantics of it, but let's look at Qatar or the people that might buy United. Then we're going to speak on what they should do with the club. So, of course, this is now a fashion fad in a sense. In terms of the ability for states essentially to own football clubs has been the trend in the modern day. Of course, it didn't start with Chelsea because Chelsea was owned by a bloke who owned an oligarch, so not exactly state owned. Man City were the closest thing to it. Then PSG. Then of course Newcastle have taken that and said we're going to do that properly, and now are pretty much state owned. This is the future for clubs. I think. I think I don't see a world in which clubs now are going to be run by fit and proper people. Now, I say this as a person who supports a club that really started to break football, right? I know money had been splashed previously, but Chelsea were the first club to really basically say we're going to fuck everything up and basically rule the Premier League in a sense. With the amount of money that they spent and the amount of money that they were able to funnel through the club, etc. Let's look at owning a football club, right? And let's look at a couple of different kind of, not requirements, but a couple of different things that I think are very important. Or I think are very important, and other things that I don't think are as important for reasons that I'll say. I think the main thing that the Premier League needs to be extremely stringent on, and I don't think they have been, is fit and proper testing. Now, the main, basically what that means is the idea of putting a potential buyer or a potential owner through a fit and proper test is to basically rule out the possibility that they're going to bankrupt a football club, like owners have done with, of course, Bury went into administration and now folded. Birmingham don't know who their owners are, and the countless clubs in the football leagues who have shit owners and who have basically been starved, basically. If you think your club's got it bad in the Premier League, at least you've got a club to support, right? So that is the idea of a fit and proper test. But to me, this goes to that this needs to be pushed to the other extreme. And by fit and proper, I mean by the other extreme, I mean in this fit and proper testing is Qatar aren't going to bankrupt Manchester United, right? Qatar Sports Group aren't going to, or Sports Investment Fund, or whatever the fuck they're called. They're not going to bankrupt Manchester United, right? They're not going to like Saudi Arabia aren't going to bankrupt Newcastle United, right? You'd like to think they wouldn't anyway. So that obviously is out of the possibility, and you doubt they'd go into administration unless they are extremely financially mismanaged. But they won't be financially mismanaged to a point where they become bankrupt. It will probably be that they breach certain laws and etc. i.e. what's potentially going to happen to Man City. So that's the reason why. That is potentially a reason why clubs may become financially insecure, because they break laws and they get fined and they get punished, etc., rather than them actually becoming bankrupt. Because I don't think Qatar are going to go bankrupt anytime soon. So what that kind of means is that it needs to go from one end of the spectrum to the other. And by fit and proper, I mean, why do these clubs, and I think I spoke about this last week, why do football clubs want to buy, why do certain people want to buy football clubs? Why does Qatar Sports Investment Group or whatever, why do they want to buy Manchester United? Now, you can scream sports washing. I mean, yeah, but at the end of the day, if we're going to get into the semantics and if we're going to get into the morals of everything, has sports washing not been around since the 30s and the 40s? And maybe I'll touch on this a little bit when I speak about the morals of this. But when you're talking about fit and proper, it's, do these people have the best intentions of Manchester United at heart? I don't know, right? You don't really know the true answer to that, and you just have to hope that they are brought in as basically just a financial backer to people who do have the right idea for the football club. You can speak a lot about Man City and what they've done and how they're potentially going to be punished, but you can't deny the fact that the owners of the club have done immense work to build Manchester City Football Club, not Manchester City's first 11 or first 22, the Manchester United Football Club. From the top to bottom, in the space of just under 2 decades, they've become a completely different football club. It's actually just over a decade. They've become a completely different football club from top to bottom, not just the starting 11. Obviously, that's something that doesn't really go noticed because Manchester City spend 100 million on Jack Grealish is a much better headline than Manchester City spend XYZ on new youth facilities, new training ground, new community centres, etc. Right? Obviously. So that doesn't really get the publicity that it potentially deserves, or the publicity that is needed to create a fair and balanced argument when you're looking at the tenure of owners and whether or not they've been good enough for the football club and good enough for the Premier League. Because at the end of the day, more clubs having elite facilities, more clubs having the best training facilities, the best youth facilities, the best community centres, more money behind them, eventually is good for the sport and good for the young players in England, because they get the best facilities to recover and to train in. They get the best coaches, get the most amount of resources, etc., with which naturally just boosts ability. I don't really think that is a mind-boggling fucking revelation to make, but regardless. You'd like to think that whoever buys Manchester United will do a lot of things that is much needed, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But how do we know that? And how do we know that this state-owned club now is just going to be the new norm? And I want to speak about the morals a little bit later. But when we take a look at state-owned clubs, let's take away who's owned them. Let's take away the fact that Saudi Arabia own Newcastle. Let's just look at Newcastle as a state-owned football club, because that's what they are. And Manchester City state-owned. Manchester United potentially going to be state-owned. I think this is the future. I think this is the future for football, which is scary. Because it takes away a little bit of the foundations of what makes a good, true football club, in terms of when you are looking at community values, when you are looking at the localization of or the local presence of football clubs, moving to a state-owned business model, in a sense, basically allows football clubs to become franchises, and it essentially removes all the uniqueness around football clubs. Because with, like, what's the difference now between what is the difference, like, back like 10, 15, 20 years ago, there was a clear, and I spoke about this last week, there was a clear, or was it last week or the week before? Actually, might have been the week before. There was a clear uniqueness to every club. There was Chelsea had this identity, United had this identity, Liverpool, Blackburn, Fulham, whoever, QPR, Brentford, Bradford, Coventry, had uniqueness about them, right? Whereas now, as more clubs are getting more money pumped into them, they're being treated like a business, being treated like a franchise, basically just a money-making exercise. I spoke about this a couple of weeks ago. Don't want to go over old ground. But I think that United are going to become... I think the fact that if Manchester United become state-owned, arguably the most prestigious club in the world, definitely the country, maybe not the world, but they'd be up there. What does you say about the state of football, right? Are the resources going to wear thin eventually, where there's not enough state-owned people to go around? Who knows? But I guess there's just going to have to be a waiting game, in a sense, about how different kind of clubs go about their business, in terms of who they're going to be owned by. It's definitely going to be a tricky thing. It's definitely going to be an interesting thing for sure. Yeah, I don't know. I think that goes on to one more talking point before I get on to what United should do with it, or what the new owner should do with United. And that is the morals behind this. Now, I as football fans, and I think we have got to this point, so I don't really think this is a major revelation or a thing that needs to be said necessarily, but as football fans, we cannot scream morals anymore. Like the horse has bolted, mate. Like, the horse is long gone. In terms of, we need to uphold morals. Where's your moral compass? And that horse bolted, not centuries, but like decades ago. Like, that horse bolted decades ago. When a World Cup is being hosted in a war-torn Argentina in 78 or 76 even, because that was the definition of sports washing. If you want to go even further back, where do you think the Olympics were held? I can't remember what it was, 40, 42, something like that. The Nazi Olympics, right? This has all been... Sports washing has been a thing for the longest time. So the fact that we're all of a sudden crying, morals, where's your moral compass, where do you draw your line, it is ridiculous, right? We've had oligarchs who have had clear ties to very evil people own football clubs. We've had states who have killed journalists, allegedly at least, that run football clubs. We've had, like I said, oligarchs run football clubs. The moral compass of football now doesn't exist. It hasn't existed for a long time, and definitely now it doesn't exist. The horse has bolted. There is no more morals in football. Football and morals are not a thing anymore. So as football fans, and as a Manchester United fan, you can't say, I don't want Qatar to own my football club because I don't agree with their practices or whatever they do, right? You can't do that. You cannot do that. You are hampering your football club majorly if United don't go through with this deal because of morals, right? You are hampering your football club, and you are majorly restricting your football club from succeeding, because it is now football is a numbers game. It is who has the most money, right? It is who has the most money, and the source of that money. As long as the source of that money isn't, it's weird because if you're state owned, you don't have to declare your money to anyone. Like, so you can't be like if you gather your money through illegal avenues, I should say, and you aren't a state and you aren't a royal family, then yeah, maybe there's a conversation about whether or not you're fit and proper to own a football club. But if I know Qatar Sports Investment Group or whatever aren't state owned, I'm aware, but they are state owned. Let's use some critical thinking. Qatar are going to own Manchester United if it goes through, not Qatar Sports Investment, whatever, right? So the whole idea around where's the money coming from, I don't think that matters anymore. I don't think it matters anymore because if you're a state, if you're a country, if you're a royal family, does it matter where your money's come from? I don't think it does. In the grand scheme of football, anyway, looking at it from a purely football perspective, I don't think it does. So you can't cry that. You can't scream, I don't want these guys to own my football clubs because I know where their money's come from. I mean, okay, there's probably some validity to that, but I don't think it's overly valid in my opinion. And when you look at morals, mate, the horse has bolted. The horse has absolutely bolted. We've had a World Cup in Qatar. We have Saudi Arabia owning football clubs. There's no more morals in the game. There's no more morals in football. Football has no moral compass anymore. It's been long gone. It's been gone for ages, and people need to wake up and realize. And I think people are waking up and realizing, oh shit, it's no longer who has the money. It's now who has the most money. There is no concern about who the person is. The concern is about how much money they have. That is how owning a football club has transformed in terms of the way people look at it. Like I said, it used to be, who is this person? Why? Who is this person? And what? And like, who is this person? Who are they? In terms of who are they? What are they? What are their business practices? Who are they? Where have they come from? How have they got their money? Now it's no longer that. It is now, okay, who cares about who the person is? How much money do they actually have? That is what people are looking at. And it's because football now is a numbers game. Football is now as important in the accounting books as it is on the football pitch. It is. And I hate it. I despise it. But it is. And the fact that states are owning football clubs is a clear indicator of that. Clear as day indicator. Because if morals and if community and if being local and if stories and narratives and vibes were important to football clubs, you would see a person from Chelsea own Chelsea. You would see a person from Manchester own Manchester United. That's what you would see, but it's not. People don't care about that anymore. Football now is now about money. It's now about business. It's about how you run your football club. It's no longer about the feeling you get when you go to football, in a sense. I definitely didn't word that correctly. Not about how the feeling you get when you go to football. It's the feeling you have with your club. I don't like the way Chelsea have gone about their business. I don't like the fact that Chelsea has spent $600 million in a transfer window. I don't like the fact that Chelsea just sacked the manager for no reason. I'm not a fan of that. But if Todd Bowley thinks that that's going to get results for the football club, then if Todd Bowley thinks that spending $600 million in a transfer window and sacking a manager for no reason and doing X, Y, and Z is going to bring more money into the football club to line his pockets, what can we do? What can we do? Because the idea of sustainability now is almost pointless, because when you have unlimited money, aren't you always going to be sustainable? Aren't you always going to be sustainable if you have unlimited money? Like, being like, when I've got this on my run sheet, I put 4 dot points down. I put fit and proper, moral, state-owned clubs, and ways of football clubs being owned. Kind of, I think they've all tied together, and I apologise if this has been a big mishmash of conversations and a big mishmash of points. But I think my point stands. My point is, Manchester United, if Manchester United are going to be owned by a state, which is what they potentially will be owned by if this deal goes through, then this is going to be like, I don't know how to describe this. Then like a couple of things need to be, or a couple of things will happen, or a couple of things need to be addressed. Firstly, if the deal goes through, this will be the beginning of the end for local people or non-states owning football clubs. If Manchester United, arguably the most prestigious club in the world, definitely the country, probably the world as well, if they are now owned by a state, then it's free reign for every single club. No club can even think about not wanting to be state-owned, because they can't compete otherwise. They won't be able to compete. So there's that. And the second thing is, like I said, there's no more morals in football. So if you have any questions, if you're a Manchester United fan, or if you're a football fan, and you have any questions about this deal going through because of your moral compass, get rid of it. Like, respectfully, get rid of it, because there's no more morals in football. No more morals in football. There haven't been for a long time. That horse has bolted. It's been gone for a long time, right? So get rid of that. Get rid of that, because it's not going to help you, right? And the third thing is, we now need to accept as football fans that the main objective for pretty much any owner of any big club is to not make the club as best as it possibly can be. It is to make as much money out of your club as possible. That is what the aims and the goals of owners of big football clubs are. Like I said, it's not to get your football club to be the best football club it can be. It is to make as much money out of your football club as possible. They're the things that we need to kind of understand and accept. Like, we almost need to accept those things right now, but especially if Qatar decide to buy Manchester United, or if that deal goes through, then they're the things that we need to accept. I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm definitely not justifying it. Definitely not. I'm definitely not saying that it's the best thing in the world. I'm definitely not saying that it's something that we should be celebrating, or something that we should be taking and accepting. I just don't see a way to fight it. And I just don't see a world in which this is reversed. I don't see a world in which this is changed. I don't. Do I see a world in which local football becomes more popular? Potentially. I don't know the numbers. I would be shocked if grassroots football hasn't spiked in recent years. Obviously, COVID would have had would have skewed those numbers a little bit on either side. I wouldn't be surprised if the numbers have spiked, but because it's just a lot more. Like I said, I'm rehashing older ground, but it feels like it's the same news every single week. Football fans want tradition, right? Football fans want what they know, and football fans like what it was 10, 15 years ago. If you took a sample size of 1,000 Premier League supporters, I would say about 700 more. I would say more than 70% would say, take me back to 1996. Probably. I would say that. I would. And I wasn't even born, right? I wasn't even a thought, right? That was 8 years before I was born, right? And I would still go back there. I say that, but there's a lot of different ways in which football clubs can, I wouldn't say connect, but can make an impact on people. And the way that football clubs are being owned now is taking that away, and it's becoming a business, and now we're becoming customers. We're becoming customers instead of people as football fans, which is sad, but it is what it is. Have to accept it. What should United do? What should the new owners of United do? That's what I want to finish on. Refurbish Old Trafford has to be up there. Has to be the number one, if not, has to be up there with one of, if not the number one priority. Whether that means building a new stadium or just refurbishing it completely, that's obviously a conversation for a person that's not me. Question for United fans, actually. If obviously as a Chelsea supporter, the last thing I want Chelsea to do is move out of Stamford Bridge. I'm completely aware that it's not exactly the most visually pleasing stadium, and it's definitely not it's definitely not an architectural masterpiece, but it is the lifeblood of Chelsea Football Club. Like Peter Osgood's ashes are buried under the penalty spot at the shed end. Like there is history at that stadium. I don't want to move as a Chelsea supporter, and I assume United fans don't want to move from Old Trafford because of all the memories and all the tradition that has come from that ground. So whether it's refurbishing it, or getting rid of it or changing stadiums, I don't know. If I was a United fan and I had to pick, I'd definitely say refurbish it rather than moving. I would get proper football people in charge. I would get a proper technical director. I get a proper sporting director, I should say, and I would get people who are football people in charge rather than business people, and I would just improve the facilities. I mean, it's pretty basic, but if Ronaldo's complaining that they've had the same spa for 10 years, buy a new spa, man. It can't cost that much. Just buy a new spa. Or whatever it was, sauna, whatever the fuck he said. But yeah, there are a couple of things. Which is just a main thing that United need to do. But that's just United being bought by Qatar, which is pretty insane to think about. I mean, when you look at City being bought by Saudi, by whoever they're bought by, that makes sense. I don't know, it makes sense because of the club. Chelsea as well. Chelsea were obviously not Manchester United levels, but yeah, I don't know. It'll be interesting. It'll be definitely very interesting to see how it all develops and how it all pans out. So let's move on. I'm going to take a quick break because my throat's a bit sore. It won't obviously affect anyone listening because it will be just a random jump cut, but I'm going to take a 2-second break to refresh my throat. That sounds weird. Just so my throat doesn't stop halfway through speaking in the next whatever half an hour that we've got left of this pod. So I'll be back. Okay, I'm back. Well, I didn't go anywhere, but I just sat in this chair. But I'm back speaking. So that was just on United, which will be interesting to see how that develops. Definitely it'll be interesting to see how that develops for sure. But let's move on and let's speak about Everton. Now, I want to do an actual tactical analysis on Everton because I feel like I may have promised this when Lampard got sacked when I mentioned it in a couple of podcasts ago or 4 weeks ago, whenever it was. I may have promised it, but and I'm pretty sure I did do a tactical analysis on Everton under Lampard, but I want to do one under Dyche because I feel like this is a little bit more interesting. Now, when you're looking at Everton, I just want to get straight into it. Actually, when you're looking at Everton and when you're looking at them under Dyche, I feel like it's important to compare. It's important to mention Lampard, and because you need to have that kind of juxtaposition of how they were under Lampard versus how they were under Dyche to really compare the change in tactics and to really understand the tactics that Dyche is trying to implement. Now, if you want obviously my full thoughts and you want my full analysis on Lampard's system, there is a clip on the YouTube channel, so go check that out. But essentially, it was extremely boring. Everton didn't press. They were very, very, very slow in advancing the ball forward. They were kind of basically... We went through some stats and we went through some average positions, and essentially what Everton's game plan was under Lampard was pass, and then long ball into the channel, and hopefully something can happen after that. There was no real creativity to the game, and there was no real clear avenue for winning, because I say long ball into the half space. It was long ball to the half space, long ball to the striker, or kind of just trying to force something. There was no clear avenue, and there was no sustainable way of playing football for Everton under Frank Lampard. They did float between a four, I think it was a 4-3-3 and a 3-5-2/3-4-3. Three at the back, five at the back system, very interchangeable. Neither system really worked, and neither system was able to get the best out of the players. So it will be interesting. It was interesting to see how they were able to transform under Sean Dyche. Now, obviously, Sean Dyche comes in, and we expect them to play similar to how Burnley played, and that was like a 4-4-2/4-4-1-1. It wasn't that. They obviously lined up in their first game against Arsenal with a 4-5-1, or like 4-5-1, especially out of possession. And the key aspect of this 4-5-1 was that midfield three, very aggressive, combative, industrious midfielders, but can also play football as well. Doucouré, Onana, and the third midfielder has escaped me, Idrissa Gana Gueye. So Gueye, Onana, and Doucouré, fantastic, and this is arguably their biggest strength, because all three midfielders are A, Premier League quality, B, very physical, and C, can all play a bit of football as well. They're not just brutes, they can play football. So being able to get the most out of them defensively and offensively is really important, and that's going to be probably the highlight of what I look at. When we touch on some average positions and some heat maps. But basically, out of possession in that 4-5-1, especially against Arsenal, but we saw it against Leeds as well, is that they were very, very sturdy and very compact. So that 4-5-1 with the wingers kind of shrunk to make a five-man kind of central midfield as well at times. It did also allow Gueye to drop slightly deeper to create like a 4-1-4-1. But what this meant is that it forced teams outside, it forced teams out wide, and it forced teams to basically just whip in cross, and force teams to play in those half spaces and play in those channels where Everton can essentially box teams out and move as a team to box teams out and push them even further out wide and push them deeper to get these like long floating crosses into the box, really being a team's only way of attacking Everton under Sean Dyche. If we bring up some average positions, should I do that? Yeah, let's do that. Bring up some average positions. This was from their game against Leeds. So what we can see here is a very, very, very clear structure. That four at the back, Gueye sitting deep, Doucouré on that left hand side with Iwobi, Onana playing more centrally, but in his average positions, but really he was playing out wide with McNeil, and Maupay being that central fulcrum. This is a very clear way of playing football, and this is going to be even clearer when I bring up some heat maps a little bit later on. But the way Everton like to attack, and this is something that I was interested to see how it would work, because I was interested to see how Everton would attack under Sean Dyche, and it's something which I don't really think we've seen from a Sean Dyche team. Now I'm going to bring up this heat map. It has worked great. This heat map is, while it might be confusing on the naked eye, but basically this is the combined heat map for both Dwight McNeil and Onana. I'm pretty sure, yes. Am I right in saying that? I'm pretty sure I'm right in saying that. Or, wait, that's on the right hand side. So, quickly, I'm just gonna pause it a little bit. This is horrendous. This is horrendous, kind of. Not very good preparation. I'll put it that way. But I just want to make sure, because I don't want to get my facts wrong. Yes, so this is the average heat map of McNeil and Onana. I'm correct in saying that. So basically, what this shows is that Everton and Dyche are trying to get numerical overloads on either flank, and this will be brought up when I bring up this heat map, which, if you can connect the dots, is the heat map for Alex Iwobi and Doucouré on the other side. If we let's just bring up this one because it's the first one I showed. What this shows is that Everton are trying to get numerical overloads on either flank in order to kind of become aggressive and direct in their initial stage of build-up play, and then once they're able to control possession and once they're able to get into these advanced areas, then they are able to kind of work their way around it and work their way through opposition teams and stuff. If we bring up the average positions again, you can see the advanced positions of Onana and Doucouré. They support both wingers. And of course it allows for Coleman and Mikalenko to push up as well. The third goal, or the goal against Leeds, comes from the ball being pushed out wide and that underlapping run from Seamus Coleman attacking the channel. That is exactly how Everton want to attack. They want to get into the advanced positions, like we can see with both of these heat maps. They want to get into those advanced positions out wide before then bursting into the channel with either an underlapping run from one of the centre-backs or from the winger, or from an overlapping or underlapping run from the fullback. This is how they get into advanced positions. This is how they want to attack. Furthermore, when they have these numerical overloads on the right-hand side, let's just say, it does a couple of things. It creates confusion from the fullback because he doesn't really know who to go to and who to mark. It forces either a centre half or a central defensive midfielder, or potentially both, to push across. As I go in and out of focus, which is annoying. It allows them to push across. It forces them to push across and shift them out of position, which allows for whoever the striker is. Of course, it was Neil Maupay against Leeds. It allows him to kind of break into certain areas and occupy the spaces that are left because of the players being drawn out of position. And what it crucially means is that if the overloads are on the left-hand side, all the players on the right-hand side flood the box to get those crosses, to get those crossing opportunities, to get those people in the box that can then whip the balls in. Of course, Dwight McNeil is a fantastic set piece taker and can whip a ball in as well. Same with Alex Iwobi, and Onana and Doucouré are both two very physical players who can definitely be very combative in the box. When Dominic Calvert-Lewin is back, expect to see a lot more crosses from the Sean Dyche team and a lot more of a direct kind of long ball out wide, cold possession, cross into the box. We of course saw the goal that came in the Leeds game. Like I said, balls out wide, underlapping run. I mean, it helped that Leeds' goalkeeper was back in Leeds when Coleman took the shot, but still, a goal's a goal, right? And of course, the goal against Arsenal came from a corner, which you will expect a lot more for Everton this season. Everton are safe. If I can get my words out, that'd be great. It's not a question in my mind now whether or not Everton will stay up. Everton will stay up pretty comfortably. This Sean Dyche team will comfortably stay up, and it won't. We're going to be looking at this in a month's time, and they're going to be 13th, and they're going to be just sitting comfortable in that like lower mid-table area. They're just so you can already tell 3 games in, well drilled, well structured, disciplined, know exactly what they need to do with the ball, know exactly what to do without the ball, and he's the perfect man to get them out of this rut. Whether or not he's the perfect man to take them forward, I don't know. But Everton will not go down. Not a chance in hell they're going to go down. In my opinion, it's pretty safe for Everton at this stage. And what we saw with Sean Dyche in these first 3 games is something that, if I can get my words out, is something that we're going to see a lot more of when he gets the players that he wants and when he gets a lot of players back from fitness, and once his side is drilled into the Sean Dyche way of playing football. I don't think they completely are drilled in that system just yet, which obviously means that there are a little bit of how do I describe it? Fallible, like they are fallible at times, especially with the ball, because it's a slightly unorthodox way of playing. Because it's not direct to the striker, it's direct out wide, and you're using your wide players to kind of play direct football. It's kind of weird, but it works. It has worked, and it's going to keep working, in my opinion. If you look at their fixtures, probably should have brought this up before I started speaking about them, but it won't take me too long. If we bring up their fixtures, they've got Villa at home, which they should win, Arsenal away, which is going to be tough. Then they've got Forest, Brentford, Chelsea, Tottenham, United. There's some tough games. But they finished the season with Brighton, City, Wolves, and Bournemouth. they should be fine at this stage. They do have a relatively tough draw. They do still have to verse Arsenal, Chelsea, Tottenham, United, Fulham, who are doing pretty well, Brighton, and Newcastle and City. But when you look at the games at Leicester away, they should be looking to win that. Wolves away, Bournemouth at home, Palace away, even Fulham at home, they should be looking to win that. Forest away, Villa at home. They should, if you're looking at 40 points, they've got 15 games to get 20 points. 20 points, 20 divided by 3 is... Well, 20 divided by... No, 3 times 5 is 15. So it's 7 wins. Can they get 7 wins from 15? They have to win under half of their games, get 40 points. I think more than 30 points. I think around 36, 37 will keep them safe. So they'll be fine. Everton will be fine. They shouldn't really worry about going down this season, in my opinion. There are definitely 3 worse teams. Southampton are worse. Bournemouth are worse, in my opinion. Leeds, despite me not wanting them to be worse, I think they are. West Ham are struggling. Wolves are struggling. Leicester, I think, will be fine. Forest will struggle, I think, as well. So yeah, there are definitely worse teams. So they shouldn't be too stressed, in my opinion, about going down. They'll be okay. And we can see from these tactics here that structured, just well drilled. Nothing to be worried about for Everton, in my opinion. They'll be fine. They'll be sweet. So yeah, that is all I want to speak about with Everton. Tactical analysis. I haven't done that for a while. Felt good. Felt good to explore the tactical side of the game rather than just speaking about money. Speaking about money and financial fair play and all this other rubbish. Speaking about actual football is pretty cool. So I'm glad I've done that. Everton out the way. I say out the way. I enjoy doing that. That was cool. Let's move on. Actually, before I get to A-League chat, I want to send thoughts and prayers to the Atsu family. Of course, former Premier League player, former Chelsea player, Christian Atsu, was missing under, obviously, the horrendous earthquakes that have happened in Turkey and Syria. Christian Atsu, obviously playing in Turkey, was missing for numerous days, and unfortunately, a couple of days ago was found passed away under the rubble. Horrendous. It just sucks. It just sucks. And it really puts into perspective and really makes people kind of sit back and appreciate what they've got, because it can be taken away from you in an instant. The fact he scored a 90th minute winner days before, and he made the whole region happy, and then the tragedy, utter tragedy. It is one of those. Yeah, it's one of those things that unfortunately happens in life, and it just sucks. It just sucks. So yeah, thoughts and prayers to the Atsu family and his close loved ones, I should say. But yes, let's move on. Let's get to slightly brighter things. Let's touch on some A-League chat. There was a Melbourne Derby over the weekend, and shockingly, to my utter surprise, Melbourne Victory don't suck. It was a 3-2 win to Melbourne Victory over the weekend in the Melbourne Derby. I tweeted pre-game. I think I should have deleted it because it didn't get any traction. I tweeted, I said, if Victory can keep it under 4 and no pitch invasions, I'll call it a successful weekend. And there was no pitch invasions, and Victory scored 3 and won the game. So, just perfect game of football. Taking away my Victory bias here, while the atmosphere wasn't as good as it can be, it was still a cracking game of football. With pretty good atmosphere, especially when you're looking at it from A-League standards. We saw it in Sydney last week. We saw it again over the weekend. That is what the A-League is. Like, that is what it is. If you were to ask me what the A-League is, I would show you last week's Sydney Derby and the weekend's Melbourne Derby as case studies as to what this league can be at its best. This is what we need to be promoting. These are the types of games we need to be promoting. Good action on the pitch, great football, great players, and good atmosphere off it. Good, safe, exuberant atmosphere off it. They combined over the weekend for a very, very cool spectacle. We saw it in Sydney, saw it in Melbourne. Hopefully it can continue, and hopefully this can be a slight beacon of light in what has been a very, very dim and dark and gloomy kind of football scene in Australia for the past couple of months, ever since Danny and his boys decided to fuck it for all of us. There you go. I think it was good. I thought it was good. I thought it was a good game of football. Victory by side. City is still very good. Victory hopefully can kickstart their season. And Bruno scored, celebrated. How funny. And yeah, I can't remember what the first goal was. Oh yeah, De Silva. Do we have a little Mathieu Delpierre replacement or Mathieu Delpierre regen? I wouldn't call him a regen because he's old, but you know what I mean. Mark II. He was very good. He was very good for victory over the weekend. If we're going to move on to Adelaide versus Western Sydney 4-4. Once again, great game of football. Great atmosphere. 10,000 at Coopers in the summer heat. Free to air TV. 4 goals, 8 goals, red cards, end-to-end action. What more do you want? This was a fantastic spectacle, fantastic game. I caught the end of it. I couldn't catch all of it live, unfortunately, but I did go back and catch some of the highlights and catch some clips here and there. From what it looked to be, the goals were of pretty good standard. And just a really good, just a good moment for the league, and just a good game, That's all it was. It was a great game. The goal at the end, the equaliser, was brilliant. Ian Kunda came on and showed some sparks. I will mention him every chance I get because I think he's a freak. An all-round cracking game of football. That's what it was. All-round cracking game of football. Can't ask for much more. And there you go. What more do you want? So they're the two main things that happened on the pitch. If we're going to move off it, some actually good news. The APL wants to add 2 more teams for the 2024-25 season and 2 more teams for the 2025-26 season. Now, this is an interesting development considering the expression of interest made for the National Second Division. What this means, I don't know. But I don't see NPL clubs. I don't see NPL clubs being a part of this A-League expansion. I think it's going to be for brand new clubs, which you need to get them right. They got it right with Western Sydney. They got it right with Melbourne Heart. I think they did. They got it horribly wrong with Gold Coast United, horribly wrong with North Queensland Fury, horribly wrong with MacArthur, and pretty wrong with Western United, in my opinion. So you need to be very careful. The immediate candidates for me, I think Canberra. The fact that Canberra don't have A-League representation is a joke. Like, they have a fully functioning women's team. There is quite clearly a breeding ground for talent, and it's quite clearly a place in Australia that wants football. So the fact that they don't have an A-League representation yet is a joke. So I think they will be a team they'll be a team in this new A-League expansion. I wouldn't be surprised if we see another New Zealand team in this A-League expansion, potentially based in Auckland. Auckland and Wellington, you have an immediate rivalry there. It gets, once again, it allows for a new kind of talent pool to enter the league. And while I don't know how it would work financially, because of course New Zealand doesn't have a great professional football scene, hopefully they can get the backing and hopefully it can be run smoothly, because I think there is a I think there is a real avenue for success for New Zealand. And apart from that, I don't really know no clubs spring to mind when I think A-League expansion that aren't already NPL clubs. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know what teams you would want to see, what non-NPL teams you would want created and put into this new A-League expansion for the next 4 years or however long it takes. It'll be interesting to see. I can immediately see Canberra and Auckland, potentially another one in Queensland, potentially another one in Adelaide, potentially another one in, probably not another one in Perth, probably not another one in Northern Territory or anywhere up there, unfortunately. But let me know your thoughts. I think if I had to put my house on it, I'd say Auckland and Canberra would be 2, and I would say another one in Queensland and another one in Adelaide. If I had to put money on it, they're the 4 teams that I would say would be the 4 teams. But I don't think it'll be any NPL representation. I think they're all going to go to the second division, in my opinion. There's that. And just finishing things up, slightly short episode today, but not a lot to speak about. Finishing things up, the NPL Victoria is back. So this is great. This is good. NPL is back in Victoria. I know it's been back definitely in New South Wales for quite a while. But yeah, NPL is back, and I wanted to bring this up because a lot of people seem to think that it's either A-League or bust, right? A lot of people seem to think it's A-League or bust in this country, and if you are feeling slightly more disenfranchised with the A-League this season or over the past previous seasons because of certain decisions made by certain people, go down to the NPL. Like, go to your local NPL team, support local football, get behind the community aspect of it, because it is true traditional football. Like, it is a really, really cool atmosphere to be a part of. NPL Victoria started back up again this week. New South Wales has been running for just under a month, I'm pretty sure. So, let's get behind local football, because if you get behind local football, then it will just go up. If the support for local football is there, then the support for the A-League will be there, then the support for the Socceroos will be there, and then eventually it all benefits from supporting your local team. So if you are feeling disenfranchised with the A-League, go down to your local NPL. It's cheap. It's cheap, good community vibe, and there's actually some pretty good football as well. The standard, especially over the last maybe half a decade, has improved greatly, despite COVID as well. Despite COVID interrupting two seasons pretty much, the standard has improved drastically. It's a very good standard for semi-pro players, and go down because it's great. It improves the standard of football across the country if people support NPL. Because if no one supports semi-pro football, if no one supports the second level that we've got, then what's the point? There's going to be no progress. The way you make progress is by supporting all tiers. So whether that's buying a shirt, buying a membership, going to a game, buying a scarf, following them on Instagram, dropping their socials a retweeting it, whatever, just get around it. That will help clubs. That will help clubs a lot. And some clubs are doing some great things. The atmosphere for some of the NPL games over the weekend were better than some of the A-League games. That says a lot. It says a lot about how good the NPL is, more than anything. So get behind it, because that is how football in this country will improve, if we start to get behind the NPL. So there you go. All right, let's move on. Let's finish things up with a preview. Finishing up with the preview. I was just looking at the time. I was a bit confused, but I was like, no, this is a slightly short episode. All right. Champions League. Frankfurt versus Napoli. Let's just crack into it. Frankfurt versus Napoli. Napoli win quite comfortably. Napoli 3-0. I know Frankfurt are doing not bad. They're 6th in the Bundesliga, but still. Liverpool versus Real Madrid. 2-2 all at Anfield. I think that'll be a good game. Inter versus Porto. 2 all again. Why not? And Leipzig versus City. I think City will win 3-1 away from home. And then Europa League, Midtjylland Sporting. I think Sporting I think Sporting will win 2-0 and advance 3-1 on aggregate. Monaco versus Leverkusen, I think Monaco will win 1-0 and beat Leverkusen 4-2 on aggregate. Nantes versus Juventus, I think Juventus 1-0 and go through 2-1. PSV versus Sevilla, I think Sevilla win 1. I think it's a 1-1 draw. Sevilla go through 4-1 on aggregate. United versus Barca, I think Barcelona win 3-0 at Old Trafford and advance 5-2 on aggregate. That's a bold prediction, that. Rennes versus Shakhtar, I think Shakhtar 2-0 over Rennes. Actually, no, 2-1, but Shakhtar go through 4-2 on aggregate. Roma versus Salzburg, Roma 1-0. No, Roma 2-0 in advance. And Union versus Ajax. Union 2-0 at home in advance. Apart from that, Tottenham versus Chelsea and EFL Cup final as well. EFL Cup final. Newcastle win on penalties. Loris Karius scores the winning penalty. Bang. And Tottenham versus Chelsea. If Tottenham beat Chelsea, I won't be doing a podcast next week. Thank you very much for watching another episode of the 2 Footed Tackle podcast. I've been your host, Ari Stamatakos. It is a pleasure to speak to you all once again. Yes, make sure you subscribe, like. I didn't actually plug. I forgot to do that. I forgot to plug. Follow all the socials. Do all the good stuff. Follow the socials. Do all the follow all the socials. Subscribe, like. If we can get just quietly, I don't want to say this too loud. If we get to 400 subscribers, maybe whisper this. If we can get to 400 subscribers, there's some ASMR for you. Just 400 subscribers before my birthday. We've got 2 months, just over 2 months, to get 20 subs. You never know. You never know. It would mean the world if we did that. But yes, thank you all very much for watching. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for sticking around if you have. Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below. Make sure you tweet at me any questions you've got, any queries about my thoughts. Or if you want to ask a question, tweet at the podcast. And yeah, speak to you all next week. Hopefully with slightly more things to talk about. Maybe we can get to a 90-minute episode next week, who knows. But yes, thank you very much for watching. Speak to you guys next week. See you soon. Goodbye.